What is up, guys? In today's video we're going to talk about the law of reversibility, and this was popularized by Neville Goddard, the New Age mystic. It basically explains how our thoughts, these invisible things, can create physical realities. Now I'm not talking about a mumbo jumbo witchcraft Gandalf occult type shit way, but a very logical process that will make sense by the time you finish watching this video. And just as easily as our thoughts can create physical realities, a physical reality, like right now I'm looking at this chair, can inspire a thought. The law of reversibility. So my name is Isaac, and I hope people live and die well through first mastering their minds. So to understand the law of reversibility, we need to do a little mini science lesson. Just pay attention. It's not gonna be crazy, it's not gonna be boring, but it's gonna make a lot of sense. Now, when we have water at its most solid state, it's an ice block, right? Ice block, so you put that in your coffee. Now, if you melt that ice, it turns into a liquid, right? Very basic, turns into a liquid. If you heat up that liquid, get really hot, it boils and it evaporates into an invisible gas. If you keep heating it up, it might turn into plasma. But just as easily as it goes through this process, it can go back the reverse way. So it can go from a gas to a liquid to a solid. That's one example of the law of reversibility. I remember during my time in engineering, we used to do lots of calculations on things such as wind turbines. So you have a wind turbine which is changing mechanical energy, right? Because the blades are rotating and transferring that into electrical energy that goes into the power grid, and then you can turn your light bulb on and have a good time. The reverse of that is what's called a motor. So think of a fan. You plug the fan into a wall, electricity is coming in, electrical energy is going in, and the output is mechanical energy, right? So the blades are turning. It's basically like the reverse of a turbine. Now, I'll give you one more example just for good measure. When you speak into a microphone, you're converting sound energy into electrical energy. But when you are using a loudspeaker, what's happening there is electrical energy, perhaps from your MP3 file that you want to play, you know, some Pop Smoke or whatever you want to play, goes to the speakers, and the output is sound energy. So in nature, we have this energy flow. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It's going back and forth, and it can reverse direction. If something can go this direction, typically it can go back the other direction for most processes. Now, what if we take this one step further and think about our thoughts? Is there some sort of reversibility associated with that? Now, Neville says, if a physical fact can produce a psychological state can produce a physical fact. And we know this to be true. If you happen to get sick, it's kind of hard to be happy, right? At the same time, if you're not happy, it's very easy to get sick. There's so many people that have chronic depression, a lot of stress, PTSD, trauma, and these things are known to manifest in the body and create illnesses. So these are psychological states. You know, depression and anxiety, all these things are because of your thoughts, but yet through some process, these thoughts create chemical reactions in the body, and a lot of tightness, a lot of inflammation, a lot of messed up stuff, and that can result in disease over the long term.
It's simple. The mind is an interpretation of the world. It causes the brain to release chemistry that matches the interpretation to coordinate 50 trillion cells to live in that world. It's your emotions, it's your perceptions, it's your beliefs. These are the sources of the chemicals that end up controlling the genes. This is a new science. It's called epigenetics.
One of the most insightful books on this process is called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers by Robert Spolsky. And another book that attacks it from a different direction is Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. They all talk about how our thoughts have the capacity to create diseases in our body. And this is something that's known in alternative health, you know, not in the mainstream health, but in a lot of alternative health, people know that through thinking a particular type of way, you can make yourself sick. And through thinking a particular type of way, you can also make yourself healthy and strong. A little side note, if you've ever been to the gym and maybe you're bench pressing or something and you're going for a PR, you know for a fact that if you have some sort of doubt in your mind, there's a good chance you're not gonna hit that PR. That shit's gonna stay down here. But if you go in with supreme confidence, typically you can achieve whatever PR you're going for. These thoughts create physiological effects, and it's very important to pay attention to that. Another example of this is if you are not confident, something that happens in the mind, something that's based on your self-image, you tend to have poor body language. You see a lot of people that are quite shy, they're very closed in like this, they're kind of hunched over, they try to make themselves small, they don't have that confidence, or what you might say alpha body language, that Chad body language, where they're expansive and taking up a lot of room. And as a result of that, it creates a self-fulfilling cycle. It creates almost like a feedback loop where they can't have these positive interactions because people don't want to hang out with them. Girls are not attracted to them, and it keeps them in that loop. So this mental state has created a physical reality. Now, if we reverse that, if you look at Amy Cuddy's research, it's found that if you just fake it, if you just expand yourself, take up more room, have good body language, it tends to create these physiological changes in the body, increase testosterone and whatnot. And also people become more receptive to you. So once again, now a physical state is creating a mental state. There's another study that's often thrown around where if you just force yourself to smile, right? If you just force yourself to smile for a prolonged period of time, you tend to feel happier. Physical state creating a psychological state. If you think about negative things, you know, right now, if you were to think about perhaps the most important person in your life passing away in a tragic car accident, if you were to really kind of fester on that thought and think about it in great detail, you might start crying, right? You might start crying. Or if you were to go back into your memory banks and think about someone who's passed away that you loved, you tend to get watery-eyed, you know, you get sad. Psychological state turning into a physical state. So this is the law of reversibility, and this happens all the time, and we're not conscious of it. So what Neville says is, what happens if we take advantage of this law by living in the psychological state that we want to create or manifest in our physical state? So being the person you want to be in your mind, keeping that image in your mind, believing it, stepping into it fully before it's actually happening around you, what's going to happen? The physical state is going to have to create that situation that's aligned with that mental state. The law of reversibility, you can't have one without the other. You know, so you got to start from having all that stuff, right? You have all that stuff. Perhaps you were born into a rich family, you're surrounded by successful friends, and you're good looking, you had muscles. All these things tend to be conducive to a good mental state. You're gonna have confidence, you're gonna have charisma, right? So you have that physical state given to you, you tend to have the right mental state. If you don't have that given to you, you need to start off with the mental state. You need to cultivate it, you need to think about it, you need to live in it until it creates that physical state. And you know, this might sound very woo-woo, and I definitely used to think that way too. I thought this stuff was nonsense for the longest time until I quit my engineering degree. So when I quit my engineering degree some time ago, during the pursuit of entrepreneurship, it changed my self-image completely. I had a 180-degree turn in who I thought I was. And what happened was my mental state changed. I said, okay, if I am willing to do this, something so outrageous, you know, when I basically finished the whole thing, this must mean that I truly am an entrepreneur. This must mean that this is a serious thing for me. And as soon as that switch changed, the mental state, the outer state changed as well. I found myself doing the actions that were more conducive towards success. I found my success skyrocketing. I found the things that were quite difficult to do being very easy. Discipline wasn't an issue because my subconscious mind was on my side. So that's the law of reversibility. You can achieve anything you want. You just need to sit in the mental state of it. That means visualizing, that means acting as if, that means feeling everything. All that law of attraction stuff that people always talk about, combine that with, of course, dedicated action, and you will achieve anything you want to achieve. Do this and I promise you'll be one step closer to living and dying well. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate you. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell notifications so we can see more of each other. Until next time.